Today's lesson is going to be on topic 1-1, which is tables and conversion. So you should have the note sheet that accompanies this lesson. And please update your table of contents to add the new note sheet to page 8. So this is the first pre-written notes on your note sheet. You volunteer in an animal shelter and need to order supplies. You know that the ratio of kitten supplies to adult supplies for each category is equivalent. Complete the table. So what it's telling us is that if there's a relationship going on here, which there is, then the relationship from here to here will be the same. So we're trying to figure out the unknown values in the table, and we'll start off with the food bags for kitten. So we're going to write a fraction, which is the unknown over 42, which must be equal to 8 over 56, just like the table shows. So you're looking at what's the relationship between 8 and 56. To be equivalent, we need to use a common multiple. So to go from 8 to 56, we multiply by 7. Therefore, we need to do the same from this side. So you got to think, what number times 7 is 42? Or you could do the opposite. 56 divided by 7 is 8. So 42 divided by 7 is then 6. Now we know the unknown value here, so we need to figure out the unknown value at the bottom of the table. So now we're going to go back up to our original value. Try not to go from here to here because it's much more difficult to see the relationship between 42 and 126. It'll be easier for us to go back to the original values in the table at the top. So we're going to use the 6 we figured out. 6 times something is 126. And 8 times that same number will be our answer. So you can use a calculator, 126 divided by 6, or just do the math. 6 goes into 12 twice, and then 6 goes into 6 once. So we're going to have our answer of 21 being the multiple. That is not the value here. That's the relationship. So 6 times 21 is 126, and 8 times 21 is 168. Now there's a U try on the right side. So please read the question and try to figure out the missing values before you watch the rest of the video. So we have a relationship here of 3 to blank equals 7 to 56. Well, if you look at the relationship between 7 and 56, it's times 8. So 3 times 8 is 24. And now we know this missing value. To find this missing value, we're going to go back up here and do the relationship between 3 and 12, which will be the same equivalent fraction to 7 and something. So 3 times something equals 12, which is 4, and 7 times that same value is 28. And now we have an equivalent relationship. Please highlight around this part of your notes. This is where the common unit conversions are kept, so you know where to look for them in the future. And just quickly, why unit conversions even matter, like why learn them in math class? So if I asked you which student has to travel a further distance to college, you have a ratio of student A compared to student B. Who travels further? Well, some people would say, well, obviously student B travels further. 120 is much larger than 11, but without units, we don't know. Now, when I change this to 11 miles and 120 feet, you'll notice that student A clearly has the further distance to travel than student B. Student A obviously living off campus from college, and student B probably just walking across the street from the dorm, or an apartment or the dorms. So what we have to do in order to do a real comparison is convert these miles into feet. There are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So if we convert it, we'll notice that student A has a much longer distance compared to student B now that they're in the same units. So here we have measurement. If the measurement is not in the same units, we need to change it to the same units. So on this one, in your pre-written notes, a kitten weighs 12 ounces, a puppy weighs 3 pounds. Write the ratio of the kitten's weight to the puppy's weight as a fraction in simplest form. So the first thing you want to do is write the ratio with the units. So these are both weights, but the units are not the same. So we're going to need to convert them. So here is the conversion from the table. It's telling us that 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces. So we're going to keep our comparisons ounces because ounces are smaller than pounds, and it's easier to convert to the smaller of the two units. It's because if you convert to the smaller, you'll be multiplying, versus if you do the opposite, you'll have to divide, and division can get messy. And I'll show you an example of what I mean. So here, the 12 ounces says 12 ounces, but we need to convert the 3 pounds into ounces. Well, since there are 16 ounces in every 1 pound, to go from 1 to 16, it's a conversion of times 16. So 3 pounds times 16 is 48 ounces. And then we need to convert this to simplest form. So 12 and 48 can both be divided by 2. Well, they can both be divided by 2, but it'd be better to divide by a GCF, which is 12. So we're going to cross a 12 out. You'll notice here I also canceled the units out, because if we have units the same over the same, we no longer have to have our units in our ratio. So after we've divided by 12 or canceled 12s out, our ratio is 1/4. And that's another way you could write it. 12 divided by 12, 48 divided by 12. We did the same thing to both, so it stays equivalent. Now, this is just to show you that dividing can be more complicated. So if you're trying to keep the pounds as pounds, that means here we're going to have to go from ounces to pounds. So to go from 16 to 1, you're dividing by 16. So 12 divided by 16 is 0.75. The simplest form means we can't have any fractions or decimals in the numerator. So we're going to cancel those out, and we're going to convert them, and we're going to get 1/4. But you can see the math here is very complicated. It's complex fractions, which you'll be learning next week, but you don't know how to do yet. And so it's easier if you just do the conversion the other way. So on this one, you spend 45 minutes working on homework and 2 hours doing fun stuff online. Write the ratio of the amount of time spent doing fun stuff online to the amount of time spent working on homework as a fraction in the simplest form. So we need to make sure this is in the right order. This is asking for amount of time spent doing fun stuff to the amount of time spent working on homework. So therefore, we need to put the 2 hours in the numerator because that's what it's asking for first, and the 45 minutes in the denominator. We're going to change these to both minutes because right now we have time, but the units are not the same, and we need to get them to be the same because 2 is smaller than 45 if you don't look at units, but 2 hours is definitely longer and larger than 45 minutes. So to convert the hours into minutes, there are 60 minutes in an hour, so we have to multiply by 60. 2 times 60 is 120 minutes. And then we need to have our final answer in simplest form. Our units cancel out because they're the same now. Since they're the same, they can cancel. Anything divided by itself is just 1 and simplified. And then we can divide by 5 to simplify it. 24 and 9 still have a common factor of 3, so we have to keep going. And our final answer is 8/3. We do not change it to a mixed number. A mixed number is not a ratio. A ratio is a comparison of two things. So right now we know the comparison of fun stuff to working on homework is an 8-3 ratio. If you change it to a mixed number, it just won't make sense. So now you have 2 problems on the you try side. Please try at least number 2 before watching the video, and then I'll give you the values to fill in for number 3. So we have 11 feet to 5 yards. Therefore, the numerator is 11 and the denominator is 5. The conversion of yards to feet would be 3 feet per 1 yard. So we're keeping this feet, and then we're multiplying by 3 to go from 1 to 3 feet. So times 3, and we'll get 15 feet. The feet will cancel out because they're now the same, and 11 is prime, and they don't have any common factors, so it's already in simplest form after we've done the conversion. This is just for fun based on the you try. So to fill in the missing values, you spend 7 hours on the drive to Disneyland and 85 minutes waiting in line for Space Mountain. We're writing a ratio of the amount of time spent on the drive, which is the 7 hours, to the amount of time spent waiting in line for Space Mountain. So we're going to write it like this, and we're going to convert to minutes because it's Minutes are smaller, so we can multiply 7 hours times 60, which is 420 minutes. And then these can both be divided by 5, and you get 84 over 17. And once again, do not change it to a mixed number. This is supposed to be a comparison between the drive to Disneyland and the wait in line at Space Mountain. And that's the end of the lesson. In class, I passed back the integers quiz. So here's the information from this year, 2018.